Hello and welcome to Tech Deals, first boot and Windows update of this $700 CyberPower PC gaming computer. I've previously reviewed this computer, link in the description below. This video is all about how I set up new computers and things you should keep in mind when you're turning on a machine for the first time. Many people may buy a computer, immediately plug it in, log in, and start using it. But there's some things you should think about before you do that. In this video, I'm going to show you how I do the initial setup of Windows, run Windows Update twice to make sure everything is fully up to date, download and install the latest needed drivers, because when these machines are built and created and the image of Windows is installed, they're never up to date, and especially on a gaming machine, you want to make sure your drivers are up to date. And also how to make sure that your antivirus and anti-malware are working properly and up to date before you start using your machine. You don't want to turn it on and go immediately to the internet and start logging in with your passwords and your email without making sure that your system is secure. So, the screen you're looking at here is the very first screen you will see when you turn the computer on and it boots up. This is the very first thing you see as part of Windows setup. The very first thing we're going to do is change my time zone. Since I live in the Central Time Zone in the US, you can also change your language or what keyboard layout if you have something different than the defaults. We'll hit Next. Now here's the legal stuff. This basically you have to accept it. There's no alternative. If you don't, you can't use the computer. Get going fast. I won't show you all these settings. I'll do it on build videos, but on these I'm just going to use Express. But I want you to be aware what's in here. If you look on the left side of your monitor in the bottom, in very small print, it says Customize Settings. Essentially, this is the privacy settings of Windows 10. You can turn on or off certain features, turn on or off Cortana, turn on or off location services, website tracking, safe screen, and others. Some of it has to do with how Windows 10 communicates to Microsoft servers. Some of it has to do with the security features of Windows. I personally use Express Settings. I know not everybody does. That's a personal settings. When you use Express Settings, it basically turns everything on. There's Express Settings. When it reboots in a second, I'll talk a little bit more about that because this takes a second. The first time you do this, it may reboot once or twice depending on if you're connected to the internet. Now, I've got a white cable plugged in back here. This is my Ethernet cable, my RJ45 cable plugged into my router for my internet connection. This means that Windows can get critical updates during the install process, even before we even get into Windows. You don't have to do that. If you have a Wi-Fi adapter, it'll ask you to connect to your network, or it'll set up without it. Make it yours. Microsoft account. What is a Microsoft account? Now, this is where you need to make a decision. It is changeable later, but it's easier if you make it now. Microsoft has, for the past two versions of Windows since version 8 and then 8.1, has offered the ability to create a login to Windows that is actually stored on Microsoft servers. Why would you want to do this? A couple of reasons. First of all, it allows you to carry your settings with you from computer to computer. So for example, if you have a laptop and a desktop, a school machine, a home machine, a work machine, you could, in theory, log in using the same Microsoft account and carry your settings, your OneDrive, your Skype, your Cortana, your Windows Store apps. You can carry everything with you and kind of make your experience the same across your various machines. Another benefit is if you're a parent. If you are a parent, Microsoft offers something called Family Safety, and you can set up child accounts in Windows with Microsoft child logins that you control that are under yours. If your children are under 13 years old, Microsoft will let you make accounts for them, but you control them. You can control what websites they go to, what programs they run, even what hours of the day they can log into the machine. So your kids don't have to use your login, they use their own, which you can monitor and control either what programs they can run, what hours they can use it, and so on and so forth. If you don't want to do that, maybe you prefer the old school way of having everything local, you can. If you look on the right side of the screen, on the very bottom in small print, it says skip this step. If you skip this step, you create a local account. Now, because this is a test machine, I'm going to make a local account. However, for my personal computers, I use Microsoft accounts. I find the syncing settings to be absolutely worth it. So we're going to call this what else but Tech Deals. You should generally use a password. I don't on test machines because I reboot them 52 times and it just saves time. But you should use a password. I use passwords on all my normal machines. but on a test machine, I'm not going to. At some point, I'll do a detailed video talking about, hi, it says hi. We're happy you're here. I'll do a detailed video talking about the various privacy and security settings in Windows. Some people are concerned more than others about such things, whether Microsoft is tracking your web browsing habits or tracking your keyboard input. Microsoft does track some of it. Cortana, the voice personal assistant, kind of like Siri, but from Microsoft, everything you say to Cortana, everything you type into the Cortana search box on the taskbar, that does get sent to Microsoft servers. Note, there's no human reading it. There's hundreds of millions of people using Windows. There's nobody looking at this stuff. It's all just automated in their servers. There's a feature in Windows 10 called Safe Screen, which tracks malicious websites. If you accidentally go to a website that is a trickery website, that, for example, if you try to go to Microsoft.com, which is Microsoft.com, but you accidentally type in two O's, Microsoft.com, people have registered those domains, bad people. They make the site look like Microsoft. You'll go to download something, or maybe it's not Microsoft, it could be Amazon, it could be your bank, any site. There are thousands, perhaps millions of such trickery websites that look like the real thing but aren't. And if you aren't paying attention, you could accidentally mistype it, accidentally go to it, type in your username or password or download a file, and boom, your information gets stolen, you get a virus. Safe Screen in Windows makes note of this. Microsoft has a full-time team working 24 hours a day watching for these. They have an ever-updated list that watches for these problems. If you accidentally go to such a site, a big red window will pop up on your screen saying, warning, Microsoft Safe Screen has detected that you have visited a known malicious website. Are you sure you want to do this? No, you don't. And that feature is part of what's in Express Settings. You can turn it off. Why would you want to? I personally think that's useful, but it does require that the website addresses that you go to be run through Microsoft servers. It's kind of the price you pay for that extra level of security. Look at that. We're in Windows. How easy and fast was that? An update's being installed, so it's already starting to find updates because we're connected to the internet. I will note, this is the factory shipping configuration. I have not yet put a solid-state drive in here. I will be doing that in a follow-up video showing the installation and cloning of a solid-state drive, moving Windows from the hard drive to the solid-state drive, and doing separate Windows performance reviews on a solid-state drive. That was pretty good. I'm actually impressed. This has a 7,200 RPM hard drive, really quick. Now, first thing you do when you get into Windows, Windows Update. Start, come down to your, well, okay, it's still processing. It is a hard drive. I clicked on Start, and there it goes, Start. Settings. So the first thing you want to do when you get into Windows, don't open a web browser, don't start using your computer, it's not ready yet. Start, Settings, Update and Security. Now it says no updates are available. Well, of course not, we just turned it on. Check for updates. I'll bet you we find a few. What do you think? It's thinking about it. Now, how long updates take to download depends on your internet connection. The installation process is the same across the board, but downloading them, of course, will depend upon your internet connection. But this usually doesn't. Look at that. There's a whole list of updates there. Windows malicious software removal tool, a security update, a cumulative update, a definition update for Windows Defender. Definitely, you don't want to be using your new computer without doing this. Now, one thing in Windows 10 is Microsoft has Windows updates turned on automatically. They will download and install when you're not using your machine, but it could be a few days or a week before these updates auto-install in the middle of the night. You generally only have to do this once when you first turn on your machine, when you first start using it. Once this is up to date, it will keep itself up to date. Generally in the middle of the night, usually around 3 o'clock in the morning, your machine will update itself and reboot, even if it's turned off. Most modern machines, even if you go start, shut down the computer, if it's plugged into the wall, it's not really off. It's almost off. At 3 o'clock in the morning, it'll still turn itself back on and run Windows Update and reboot itself and then turn itself back off and go back to sleep. If you ever want to make absolutely sure your computer never turns on, yeah, you almost do have to pull the power. And it's preparing to install. This is pretty quick. Now this process is faster on an SSD, but I will say, of all the possible hard drives that could be installed, this is not a bad one. I still personally won't use a computer without an SSD, but if you decide to buy this and use it as is, it's about as good as it can get in terms of hard drive experience. Normally I put a cut in here when these are going, well, it's preparing to install, it's downloading and getting it ready. At some point here I'm going to trim this because the install process usually takes longer than you want to watch. I suppose I could find things to talk about, but at some point you're watching a progress bar. It's not very exciting. And while this is running, I don't want to go do anything else. I don't want to interrupt it. And Windows Update is usually pretty good. If I were to open a web browser or go and run another program or try to install something, it'll pause what it's doing. It's designed to be non-invasive. It won't interrupt what you're doing on your machine. So going and doing something else while it's doing this is somewhat counterproductive because this just pauses. This is probably a good trim point. We'll be back in a second when it's ready for reboot. And we're back. That was really quick. That only took about a minute. From the time I trimmed, I took only about a minute of timeout. That was really quick. So the first thing you need to do is hit restart. And so it's going to start restarting. It'll do generally 2 progress percentages. The first before it actually reboots here. Then it will reboot and come back up and say now installing, and then bring you back to Windows. Now when this is done, are you ready to use your computer? Not yet, hang on. This is a gaming computer. We have an AMD RX 480 dedicated gaming graphics card. We need to download and install the latest drivers. I'll show you how to do that. We also need to verify that Windows Defender is running and does have the latest updates. And then we need to run Windows Update one more time to make sure it actually has everything. Why? Because Windows Update doesn't always get every update in one run. There are sometimes what are called dependencies where you have to get the first set of updates, they have to install, and then when you run it again, the next set of updates run. Sometimes you have to run them more than once. Again, once this is fully up to date, you don't have to do this again. This is just first time you turn your computer on, first boot from when you buy it. Getting Windows ready. Okay, this is another good trim point. I'll trim this back, I'll trim this here, and we'll be back when the system has rebooted. And we're back into Windows. So that took about 15 minutes to do the full install and reboot and setup of everything it needed. So of course, when you're ready to do that for the first time, go get a cup of coffee, walk the dog, have a snack, whatever. When you're back to the Windows desktop, we're going to run it one more time. Start, Settings, Update and Security, again, bottom to the far right. There was a problem installing some updates. Now this is okay, this is the definition to Windows Defender and this is why you do it. It couldn't install this update along with the others. So let's hit retry and give it another chance to do it again. You want to make sure your machine's fully up to date before you start using it. Once it's up to date, it'll check every night and keep itself up to date so long as it's at least plugged into the wall and you have an internet connection of some type. And of course, if you have no internet connection, then you don't need the updates as much. Checking for updates. It's thinking about it. There we go. 2 updates. The Windows Defender update and then one more update for Windows 10 in addition to the previous ones we installed. This is why we always run this twice. Not something a lot of people think about, but I'm showing it to you. I could tell you, but a lot of people would hear it and go, wow, that's silly. What do I need to run it for twice? This is why. I can do no better than to simply show you that it wasn't just Windows Defender updates, but there was another update to Windows 10 that couldn't install until the previous ones installed. Further side note, many computers you buy, even towards Christmas of 2016, I'm filming this in September of 2016, are going to come with the fall 2015 version of Windows 10. There have actually been, many people don't know this, 3 versions of Windows 10. They're all called Windows 10, but they each have an internal version number. This one is running the fall update, which is version 1511. The new version is 1607. Why? Well, that's just what they number them. It's not important. It's called the anniversary update, and it came out in August, about 1 month ago. It will naturally install itself if you give your computer some time. It might take a week to install, it might take a few days. Microsoft is rolling them out slowly, and machines don't necessarily get the anniversary update right away. You can force it, and I'm going to show you how in just a minute. Almost done. You don't have to force it. It's mostly a feature update, but you'll eventually end up on it one way or another. They do provide a download, so you can go ahead and force it if you don't want to wait for Windows Update to put it on. Checking for updates. I am fully aware that when you get your new shiny computer, the very last thing you want to do is this. Your device is up to date. There we go. All right, let's close this. Let's open Windows Defender. All you have to do is type in Windows Defender into search, and there's Windows Defender. Windows Defender is the built-in antivirus and anti-malware provided by Windows. You no longer have to use a third-party antivirus tool such as Norton Antivirus, McAfee Antivirus, etc. Windows comes with one built in. It keeps itself up to date. I mean, you certainly can use a third party, but why? Microsoft provides it for free. If you come to update, you can actually see when it was last updated, and this was updated September 4th, which is the day I'm shooting this, is September 4th. And real-time protection is on, so we're secure there. Your computer could be used now, but you bought a gaming computer, drivers for your video card. Now, you do not have to worry about most of your other drivers for your system. Windows 10 is really, really good about drivers for your motherboard, sound, processor, etc. It's really good about that, but the one area you need to update is your graphics driver. So the first thing we're going to do is open up our web browser, Microsoft Edge, which is certainly good enough, and we will type in AMD drivers. And the first result there from Bing search engine is AMD's drivers. Now, I'm talking about this rather than telling you to do it for a reason. You actually have two different driver choices. Both are worth considering. I want to talk about the differences. First of all, let me hold down Control and press the plus to zoom in. Most web browsers, if you hold down Control and hit plus and minus on the numeric keypad, zooms in your screen. We have an RX 480 graphics card. Now, if you have a different computer, well, I don't know why you're watching this, but if you're watching this just for the information and you have a different machine, make sure you download the drivers for your card. But this comes with an RX 480. So we see Radeon, I don't know how to pronounce that actually. RX 400 series, we are running Windows 10. We are running the 64-bit version of Windows, so we'll click on that. AMD driver, Crimson Edition graphics driver installer. Now, if we scroll this down, you will see the very first item is Crimson Edition 16.8.3 Hotfix released 8/31. That was just 5 days ago, so that's a very, very recent driver. Now they call it a hotfix. Let me help them out a little bit. This is a beta driver. What is beta? Software in testing, but they don't call it beta here because that scares people, at least who realize that beta software is software in development, which is why if you scroll down just a bit more, you get the mainline release. Crimson Edition 16.7.3 released back on July 28, about 1 month previously. The hotfix driver, the 8.3, is newer. Now the versions will change. By the time you watch this, these may be different, but I want to call out the difference between the hotfix drivers that they release and the main ones and why they're offering two different versions here. And the simple reason is this. New games come out. In this case, Battlefield 1, where they need to make tweaks to the drivers to support the latest and greatest games that come out, bug fixes, developments, things that they're working on. They regularly release hotfix drivers that fix those problems, but they're not thoroughly regression tested against older software. I will give you a very specific example. If you want to play the new Battlefield 1 beta that just came out a couple days ago, you want the 8.3 Hotfix driver. If you want to play World of Warcraft, you want the 7.3 driver. I have read multiple reports at how performance dropped in World of Warcraft and other games with the Hotfix driver versus the mainline release. Which one you download depends on what kind of games you play. Do you mostly play games that came out 3 months ago or more? Fully released games that have been out for a few months and been patched? Download the mainline release. In this case, the 16.7.3 driver released about a month ago. Do you want to play the Battlefield 1 beta, which came out 5 days ago? Download the Hotfix driver. If you install the latest Hotfix driver, you can go back and install this one. You can overwrite it. So you can switch between them if you need to, but it's a bit of a pain. So because I am going to be running Battlefield 1 on this machine, I'm going to install the Hotfix driver. No, I don't want the latest information from AMD. It's downloading at the bottom. I realize that all sounds like a lot of talking for a driver. AMD regularly releases Hotfix drivers to address pressing issues with the very latest games, but they're not fully tested against the back catalog until they release it as a main full driver, which means it may break things. Be aware of that. We'll hit run. Most people, you can go ahead and close your web browser now. So this is the actual installer. Most people probably should not download the Hotfix drivers unless they need the specific game support the Hotfix driver is designed to address. It's working on it. So if you want a blanket recommendation, download the .7, download the mainline release, and skip the beta or Hotfix drivers unless you specifically need them. Now, all the fixes in that Hotfix driver will eventually get rolled into the main driver. It will get a new version and be posted without the Hotfix label. And then the driver software will also pop up a notification when there's a new main release and you can update to it. So you'll get those benefits. They'll probably release the main one because Battlefield 1's in beta testing. It'll come out in October. When that comes out, they'll probably have a new driver for it then that is properly tested. So look at all the different things that are installed. We have the AMD. This is why you need to download this and install it. Now, Windows 10 has a basic driver for the AMD graphics card included, but it is not high performance and it's not designed for gaming. It's designed to just run Windows. AMD display driver, current version not installed. HDMI audio driver, that allows you to get sound through the HDMI cable to your monitor speakers if your monitor has built-in speakers. Various settings programs, install manager. You do need the Microsoft Visual C++ redistributables. AMD's Gaming Evolved app comes with a number of features built into it, and definitely check that out because that includes the ability to record your gameplay, the ability to optimize your game settings automatically if you want it to, and some other features. Vulkan, you definitely want that installed, and then the Visual C++ 2013 redistributable. Basically, click install. It's not that complicated, but I'm just mentioning that there's a lot more to it than just a driver. This actually shouldn't take very long. This is a fairly fast computer. On older machines, slower machines, or with slower hard drives, this is pretty slow, but this is a pretty good one. I don't think I'll cut this out. I'll let this go ahead and install. When this is done, your system needs to be rebooted, and then you're ready to go. It's really not that bad setting up a new machine these days. You don't have to hunt around for drivers. You mostly just need to worry about your video card driver and make sure Windows is fully up to date and make sure that Windows Defender is activated and is also marked as up to date, and it will keep your system secure. Of course, don't go to malicious websites. Don't download unknown files from unknown sites. You know, practice safe computing. I probably should do a video on practicing safe computing in general. I read a study somewhere that said some percentage, 20+% of people will click on basically anything that pops up on their screen without reading it. That's not a good idea. Almost done. Now, after this video, I will be filming the Windows performance review. It won't be posted with this, it'll be posted separately. But there'll be links to that in the video description below. And there's also a bunch of game performance videos on this computer, which will be linked in the description below. My original review of it, and then when I'm done with this, there'll be a final follow-up summary of everything I've done on it and my overall impressions. But in short, for about $700 in the summer/fall of 2016, you can't do better than this computer. Fast 4-core processor, great video graphics card, plenty of storage, a nice big case you can grow with. This is an excellent Cooler Master. Master Case 5, I believe it's called. Very, very nice case, lots of room. Very, very nice machine. 89%, we're almost done. It probably sounds like I'm excited when I talk about it, but I genuinely am. The leap this year in performance in graphics cards has been incredible. For what you get for the money, I'm very excited at how much of a jump we've had this year. Because it's been a couple years since we've had a decent jump. 3 months ago, the same money would have bought half the graphics performance. It's almost doubling the graphics performance you get for the money this summer. Here we go. And we'll hit restart now. And we're done. Like the video if you like it. Don't if you don't. Remember to subscribe to my channel. It's the big huge red button right down there. If you've already subscribed, thank you very much. If you haven't, click it now to get notifications of when the performance videos post, Windows Performance, which comes after this, and lots of other fun stuff. Leave your questions and comments in the comment section below, and check out my video description, links to all my reviews of this, as well as to Amazon.com, where I bought this machine, and you should too, because this thing rocks. It is a killer deal. I highly recommend it if you are looking for a desktop gaming computer in the $700-ish price range. You can do no better than this. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.